What is up? Welcome back to the Too Tall Sports podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I will get to my 2 cents in a second. If you want to skip ahead to my interview, is going to be with Evan Mendoza. He is a AAA baseball player in the St. Louis Cardinals organization. So I have a great chat with him about his college days at NC State. And we also talk about his career in the minors. He's also a content creator on social media. So I follow him in all of his cool videos like Dan the Life stuff, really good stuff. And we talk about the Cardinals organization. We talk about his journey now as a content creator, but also navigating the minor leagues as well. And also he's got an NFT collection based on baseball called the Diamond Dogs, DAWGS. So lots of cool stuff that he's doing. And, you know, he and I go back and forth on some minor league stuff, but interesting story and career. So if you want to hear the interview, just skip ahead a little bit. But I got to give you my 2 cents, which revolves around the huge week and moves that have happened in the NFL. So let's get to my 2 cents segment. Whoa, huge moves in the NFL this week. I had other stuff that I wanted to talk about, but this trumps everything, okay? Russell Wilson going to Denver for a bunch of picks and a bunch of players. I don't care who you are. As always, in a trade like this, whoever gets the superstar wins the trade. And that's exactly what happened for Denver. John Elway has done this before. He did it with Peyton Manning years back, and it worked. They went to one Super Bowl and lost to Russell Wilson, coincidentally, and they went to another one and won. Elway hasn't been great at drafting quarterbacks, right? If you really think about it, you know, like Trevor Siemian, Drew Lock, you know, I hate to bring this up, Tim Tebow, you know, he hasn't really had a great eye for college quarterback talent. So what's the next best thing? Trade away all your assets, not all of them, but some of them, for a proven quarterback who's ready to leave. It was a perfect synergy and perfect timing. Could it have been Aaron Rodgers? Yes, but he got the big money. You know, on Tuesday, it was reported he signed for $200 million, 153 guaranteed, highest paid quarterback annual salary average in the league. He got his money. Not as huge of a story as I thought, but then an hour later, the news drops about Russell Wilson. First of all, huge move for Denver. But the issue is going to be, this is the AFC West, which is completely stacked now, right? You got Mahomes and the Chiefs, who are Super Bowl contenders. You got to think the Chargers and Justin Herbert are going to be better next year, barring they don't go for it on every fourth down. Just a few of them there, Brandon Staley. Not every single one. But the Chargers are going to be better. And then you got the Raiders with Josh McDaniels, former offensive coordinator for the Patriots, taken over. He's ready to be a head coach now. Derek Carr is still there. Darren Waller, the tight end, still there. Josh Jacobs. The Raiders just can't miss on their picks, right? I've done videos about this before. The Raiders just the last 2 years have like basically whiffed on all their picks. So they need to make better draft picks and put some talent around Derek Carr. But now you got Russell Wilson in Denver. This is the toughest division now. Russell Wilson went from the toughest in the NFC to the toughest in the AFC. And then you still got to deal with Josh Allen, the Bills. You got Lamar coming back to the Ravens. You're going to have Cincinnati with Burrow back, who's probably going to be better. The AFC, as we've discussed, is loaded. So it's going to be a great move for Denver. You have to try something. This roster is ready to go. Maybe they are a quarterback away. So great move for Denver. Let's talk about Seattle for a second. You know, the worst place to be in professional sports is the middle, right? You're good enough to compete, but you're not good enough to win a Super Bowl, and you're not bad enough to get a good draft pick. Being in the middle is the worst place you can be in professional sports. And that's where the Seahawks are now. The Legion of Boom is gone. That whole regime is gone. Pete Carroll just turned 70 years old. I don't know if he stays. I don't think he wants to go through a rebuild. They released Bobby Wagner, their all-pro linebacker, who was there as long as Russell Wilson's been there. This is a new wave coming in of players. Even though they have talent, they got DK Metcalf, they got Tyler Lockett at wide receiver. They can't figure out the running game. Now you get rid of Russell Wilson. I think it's going to start a fire sale there in Seattle. They're going to have Drew Lock at least to start with at quarterback. You can't have the fourth best quarterback in the division, right? Rams, Cardinals, Niners. Not sure what's going on with the Niners and Jimmy G, but he's having surgery. But either way, Drew Lock's going to be the fourth best quarterback in the NFC West. I think they got to start over. I think this was the first step to doing it. They've really tried with Russell Wilson. He wasn't happy there. Last year, he gave them a list of teams he'd be okay being traded to. This was in the making, right? It's just, it had to happen. So I don't know if Pete Carroll wants to stick around for this at 70 years old. I don't think he would, but you never know. So, but I think it's a good move for both sides. Both these teams needed to do something, and they did. Real quick, addressing the Aaron Rodgers stuff, the NFC, contrarily to the AFC, the NFC is completely wide open. Outside of the Rams, who won the Super Bowl, who knows with the Niners again? Arizona, I don't believe in. You pretty much got Dallas, who's a phony, in my opinion. Remember, they went 6-0 against the NFC East last year, 6-5 against the rest of the league, okay? Average team, in my opinion. And you got Green Bay. So now Aaron Rodgers goes back to a completely depleted NFC, right? Drew Brees is gone. Tom Brady looks to be gone. You got a lot of old quarterbacks are out of there. It's pretty much Rodgers and the Rams, I would say at this point. I don't know if the Niners can repeat this. So you're going to win the NFC North, right? The Vikings have a lot of talent, new coach. They're your only competition. The Lions are still bad. The Bears are still bad. You should have home field in the playoff. You should have a similar scenario as we had this year. So now I believe Rodgers deserves every penny that he's getting. But now a lot of people are going to expect a championship. There's no way this guy is this good with only one Super Bowl. I know it's not that easy, but Rodgers has to get one more in the next 4 years to validate his greatness. I still think he's the best thrower of the football I've ever seen, but I got to see more in the playoffs from Rodgers. I just do. And I'm a huge supporter of his, but I need to see more. Let me get to the Calvin Ridley stuff. If you guys didn't see this, this week it dropped that Falcons receiver who was away from the team dealing with mental health issues, Calvin Ridley, the receiver for the Falcons, bet on games. And he spent $1,500 on different parlays. If you don't know what a parlay is, it means you bet on multiple teams that they all win or they all cover your bets. You get paid more because there's more at stake. Instead of just betting on one game, you bet more than one game. Either way, he is suspended for the entire 2022 season, at least, possibly more, because he was betting on games and he is an active NFL player. There's a few things you can't do in sports that are cardinal sins. One, you can't hit anybody or commit a heinous crime, right? You can't do that. You can't get in trouble with domestic violence. You can't drink and drive. And you can't bet on games if you're an active player in the league. I thought everybody knew this, maybe not. Maybe he thought it was innocent and he's just doing parlays. The fact that he bet on the Falcons, I believe, to win, if you bet on them to lose, we're not sure. Either way, does it really matter? Once you lose the integrity of the game, you cannot come back from that. And as a fan of sports, this is a complete no-no in the league. You cannot jeopardize the integrity of the game, the product, the entertainment, because once it's inauthentic, you lose people. Now people don't know what they're watching. Can we believe, is this scripted? Is it not? And trust me, there's a lot of people that already believe there's fixes in the game, the fix is in. But you can't have players shaving points and purposely losing or tanking. You can't have that. And this also brings me to Stephen Ross. If you guys heard about the owner of the Miami Dolphins, allegedly, not sure, allegedly offered to pay former coach Brian Flores $100,000 to tank every loss, $100,000. If that's going on, you got to make him sell the team. You cannot have the integrity compromised in sports. Whether teams are actively tanking or not by choosing to play certain players or having all the young guys out there, that is a strategy. And sometimes tanking does make sense. If you have no chance to win, you might as well rebuild, right? There's lots of teams that have shown that this works to tank, but paying to tank is a different deal. And that is where you have to draw the line. So the NFL reacted immediately on this, suspended Ridley for betting on games. You can't do it. There's no argument for it. I don't care if people think it was a minimal $1,500 that he bet and he was away from the team. Don't tell me these dudes don't have inside information or know the weeks that are good weeks to bet on or the inside personnel info. You can't convince me of that. So the bottom line is you can't bet on sports. Look at Pete Rose. It has the most hits in MLB history, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. Pete Rose has over 4,000 hits, more than anybody by far. And he's not in the Hall of Fame because he gambled on baseball. Yes, he gambled while he was coaching. It was way more egregious than what Calvin Ridley did. But you cannot open Pandora's box on this. You just simply can't. So I agree with the NFL. You have to suspend him. I'm not sure about the length. Is a year? I don't know. Is that enough? Is that too much? I don't know, but you can't have this. That's why the NFL acted so harshly, and we'll see if Ridley comes back after this coming season. But man, tough deal. Got to know that you can't bet on sports. So anyway, there you have it. That's my 2 cents segment for the day. Hope you enjoyed it and enjoy my interview with minor league baseball player and content creator, Evan Mendoza. What's going on? Welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Glad to have you. My interview today is with Evan Mendoza. He is a shortstop in the St. Louis Cardinals organization. He's been playing in the minors for the last 5 years. Last year, he was in Memphis with the AAA Redbirds in the Cardinals organization. And he's here to talk about his career. He went to NC State for college. He's originally from Florida. So we talk about him coming up in high school and college, and then in the minor leagues as well. He played at winter ball. He played in the Caribbean series for Colombia. And then we talk about his huge social media presence. He's on TikTok. He's on Instagram, Twitter. He has an NFT project called Diamond Dogs. We talk all about that. He's got some really cool stories. And he's a busy man. He's up to a lot off the field, and he's doing more than most off the field. So lots of cool stuff today with Evan. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode coming up. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Check out my YouTube page. We drop interviews and episodes on YouTube and on Apple, Spotify, and all the other platforms. On YouTube, just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast. You'll find all my stuff there. Every Thursday morning, we drop an episode, usually around 5 a.m. Pacific time. So when you wake up on Thursdays, you will have it in your inbox or on your web browser or desktop, whatever you got. But if you want to watch the interviews, please subscribe, comment, rate, review, like, share, all that stuff. Go ahead and head over to YouTube. On the audio side, like I mentioned, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. If you are on Apple and Spotify, if you haven't done so already, please scroll down on the episodes page and hit those 5 stars. It would really help the exposure for the show. I love to get any kind of help and boost that we can for the show. So just type in Too Tall Sports Podcast and you'll find me there. And check out my Instagram, my TikTok, my Twitter, all that stuff, just so you can engage. And I love, people hearing feedback about the show. So that'd be awesome. And with that, enjoy my interview with shortstop for the St. Louis Cardinals organization, Evan Mendoza. All right, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest is a professional baseball player in the St. Louis Cardinals organization. He was drafted in the 11th round of the 2017 MLB draft out of NC State. He's originally from Sarasota, Florida, and he's become a huge TikTok superstar who I follow on social media. And he's got a new NFT project called Diamond Dogs, which we will get into a little bit later, and we'll cover it all with Evan Mendoza. What's going on, Evan?
Hey, it's going well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Glad to have you. You're doing a lot of cool stuff, but I kind of want to look back at your journey a little bit to see how we got here. But before that, I want to talk about, the big elephant in the room right now is the MLB lockout. As a minor leaguer, you're not necessarily part of that, but what are your thoughts on the whole thing? And then also, as you get ready for your minor league season, what's it been like in your off season going forward?
Yeah, so I think the lockout personally hasn't taken too much of an impact. Of course, I say that now because we could be potentially delayed a couple of days, maybe a week. Maybe that changes in a month. Maybe we're still locked out. That would be really unfortunate. But so maybe my answer might change. But as far as my training goes, prepping for the season, I feel like generally speaking, most minor league baseball players, even professional, big leaguers, it's a little bit more of a responsibility to themselves that they need to make sure that they're getting their work in outside of team supervision. So personally for me, since I'm not represented by the Players Association and I'm not a big leaguer yet, I'm able to actually go train at the spring training facility under, great coaching staff and, trainers and strength coaches. Sure.
Okay. Well, that's good. No effect to you then. I kind of now wanted to go back a little bit and kind of get your journey and stuff like that. Let's start back. You grew up in Sarasota, like I mentioned, which is, by the way, real close for those that know that I used to play at Pirate City, which is in Bradenton. So really close to Sarasota. So I kind of know the area a little bit. But when did you really start to get into competitive baseball? What age and really kind of grab a hold of that as your main sport?
Yeah, so honestly, I'd say probably around 8 years old. I was actually born in Baltimore, Maryland, and played like T-ball and coach pitch for a couple of years up there. And then my family moved down to Sarasota. And it only took a couple of years after Little League to realize that I took the game a lot more serious than most. I had high expectations for all the teammates around me, and ultimately I wanted to win. And I think that's when my parents realized the same thing. So they put me in some travel ball, competitive ball, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's when I started, taking the game even more serious. Of course, always trying to have fun out there. It's a kid's game at the end of the day, but
Sure.
I've never really viewed it as work or viewed it as, I don't want to do this or don't want to do that. I think back in high school, I went to Sarasota High School, which is a pretty well-known program,
Sure.
produces great talent. And I remember there was a tournament that fell through, or not fell through, it went through to a Monday. So this was during fall ball, and we were actually kind of excused from class. And I remember, I think that game was at like 8 o'clock in the morning in Fort Myers. I had to wake up around 6 o'clock, which is probably an hour before high school. And I remember that energy that I had waking up that day. I had so much more energy because I got to do something I love to do. Of course, going to class wasn't necessarily the most fun thing for me. I thought I was a pretty decent student, but it's just a different type of energy when you wake up and you're able to do something that you love. So I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I agree to your point. Like, you really got to love it to make it as far as you have. You don't just like, talent can only take you so far. Mentally, you got to be all in and love the game. So totally agree with that. As far as your high school career, we'll get into that a little bit. Obviously you're mostly a shortstop, but I saw you pitched a little bit too, right? So
Yeah.
what was when did you really start to like decide you're going to be a shortstop?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I guess last year.
Oh, right.
Well, no. So I was mostly the very typical athletic kid that played shortstop and pitcher growing up for a long time. My freshman year of high school, my family moved back and forth a lot during my middle school years, but my freshman year of high school was up in Maryland. I was a two-way guy there. I even started on the mound for the state championship game
Nice.
as a freshman, which was, a great experience. Unfortunately, we lost, but when we moved down again to Sarasota, um, my sophomore year, I was predominantly just a PO. I played a few innings in the field. The competition, of course, is a lot better in Florida because you play year round.
Yeah.
So I had to tell myself, if I wanted to play a position, which I ultimately knew I did, you're gonna have to put some work in. So I put some work in. I earned a spot my junior year, my senior year, and I actually got drafted. I mean, I got committed to NC State from my pitching performance in a travel ball tournament right before my senior year. So I actually went in to NC State as a two-way, but I kind of told myself I'm a little bit more advanced, I think, on the mound right now. So that's where my focus was going into college.
Interesting. So I didn't realize that you were like more of a pitcher than a position player because, obviously with not just defensively, but you got to hit too. So
Yeah.
that's like half the battle as, if you can hit, they'll
Yeah.
find a spot for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking, I know you said you committed to NC State, which we'll get to, but were there any other schools in play or were you dead set on NC State?
Yeah. I had a pretty, I guess, filtered criteria for a college that I would like to go to. And I think that comes from my family and educating me on what I wanted, which ultimately I always understood that baseball is plan A, but you have to have a plan B. So I wanted to be able to go to a school that had the major that I was looking for, which I've always been into math and science. So I was told basically, engineering is your way to go. Like if you love that stuff, go down that route. And I've always had a love for planes. So I decided to look for a school that had aerospace engineering as their
Oh, wow.
major,
Okay.
which is actually a very, not many colleges offer that, surprisingly. A lot of people or a lot of colleges will have a mechanical engineering program, but not necessarily aerospace. They're very similar, but the three that I was mostly looking at were Rice in Houston, Texas, which is a pretty small school, good
Yeah.
baseball program, UVA, and NC State. Those were my three that I was really looking at. All three offered, and then I basically decided what felt right, which was NC State.
So I'm sure once you walked on campus and you took a visit there and you were like, it just feels right away.
Yeah, there were a couple of like really hidden, deeper almost connections that I never even really knew. When I got to NC State, And it was a pretty special and magical feeling to feel that, this is going to be my home. It feels right. All basically there were 5 or 10 cues telling me, hey, this is where you need to go here, go here, go here. And then I just started listening to those a little bit more, and then turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life.
Yeah, definitely. And so let's talk about your experience at NC State, whether it's, going to football games or, basketball games, whatever, just the life as a student athlete there. What was your college life like, and how was the transition out of high school for you, going from high school baseball player to college baseball player?
Yeah, well, honestly, a lot of work. I understood that with the major that I decided to choose, and then just the grueling schedule of doing practice just about every single day. And one thing that my dad kind of instilled in me is, if you're doing everything that everyone else is doing, you're not getting any better. You have to always put that extra work in. So ultimately, a lot of my college, my 3 years at NC State, I didn't necessarily have a huge social life.
Okay.
So I mixed it between going to class, practice, and then occasionally go to the library to get studying in. But if I ever wanted to push off that studying, I would go back to the hitting facility that we had at NC State. We had an automatic machine, so I would hit there for hours in the middle of the night sometimes, listen to music, and kind of just escape from, the test that was the cloud over my head the next day or a couple of days later. That was my form of kind of escaping the college stress.
Yeah, man. Hey, that's what it takes. You got to put the work in, the extra stuff, just like you're talking about. And that's what separates you, which is awesome. And it led to your sophomore year, which I saw you went off basically.
Yeah.
You led the team with a 362 average, 23 game hit streak, I think I saw. And then you end up going to the Cape Cod Summer League. You hit well there as well. That was the whole 2016 year for you. What was that like?
So that was the pivot point of basically establishing myself as a hitter. I've always been a pretty good defensive player in the field. And I think, of course, if you're able to hit, they'll find a spot for you. And that was kind of the thing that made me focus a little bit too much on pitching first couple years at NC State. My freshman year, a lot of people don't know that, but right out the gate, my freshman year, I was the Saturday starter. I was the number 2 in the rotation. I was very pleased with that starting off the year. I was like, okay, I went to college as a 2-way. It looks like I'm going to be a pitcher for the rest of my career. 2 starts in, it didn't really go too well. And then I was riding the bench basically the rest of the year. My freshman year at the plate, I was 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. That's it.
Wow. So you had to really decide where you were going.
I had to, again, once again, put in that work like I did in high school. And I realized I wasn't necessarily as good as everyone else. And that's when I decided to really hit late at night and put in that extra effort. And it's definitely paid off. But sophomore year is when I, put everything together, the glove, the bat, and was able to, I guess, turn some heads of some MLB scouts.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you go up to the Cape, you're going to get a lot of looks. So what was that experience like for you? Everyone says they love it, but what was your experience up in Cape Cod?
It was one of the best summers of my entire life. Just very laid back, relaxed. I was very fortunate to have great teammates and some good experiences with my host family. And, just it was an unreal time, great weather. You can't really ask for too much more. So it was one of the best times of my life, and I'll always cherish that.
Yeah, definitely. The following year, you go in the 11th round to the Cardinals in 2017 draft. What do you remember about the draft process? Where did you think you were going to go in the draft? I'm sure it's stressful leading up to it. Everyone's telling you things, all that kind of stuff. And then once you heard your name called, what was that like for you?
Yeah, well, a lot of sleepless nights because 11th round is day 3. I don't really know how the new draft structure is going to work because supposedly that's one of the things that they're debating right now for the lockout. But day 1 is basically rounds like 1 and 2. Day 2 is like 3 through 10. Day 3 is when I was selected, was like within the first hour or so, which I was pretty lucky. But I was on top of it. I answered a lot of phone calls. But one of the funny little nuggets that a lot of people don't know is when they announced my name, from my time as a senior in high school, I was being mostly looked at as a pitcher. There were a couple of teams, the Blue Jays and the Giants, I believe, looking at drafting me as a pitcher. I was more of a command guy. I didn't have a huge frame or anything like that,
Sure.
but I topped at 91 on occasion. But they had me in the database as a right-handed pitcher. So when they selected my name, I think it was pick number 334, round 11. The St. Louis Cardinals select right-handed pitcher Evan Mendoza, which
The
I got
disrespect, man.
a lot of people were calling me up. My college coach, Coach Avent, you told him you wanted to pitch still. You told him you want to pitch. I was like, no, it was just a mistake on their end. So that was a fun little story. A lot of people were asking me questions on if I still wanted to pitch, and obviously I did not, because I didn't really love the whole bullpen life. And I'm an active guy. I want to be in the game,
Sure.
moving around, taking ground balls, hitting BP. So I'm happy with, how everything turned out.
Yeah. And I'm not suggesting this at all, but I have seen it happen where shortstops have become pitchers and been successful. So maybe, I don't know, if the whole shortstop thing doesn't work out, you got it in your back pocket.
Always
maybe.
in the back pocket.
Yeah. So, worst comes to worst. But obviously, you don't want to do that yet. You're still in the mode right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So you, once your minor league career started, you and I both played in the Midwest League. So I wanted to ask you about some of the places you played in. I think I saw you played in Peoria, Illinois. Nice ballpark, if I remember.
Yeah.
Did you like playing there as a player there?
Yeah, I thought it was a step up. I started out in State College, Pennsylvania, and I absolutely loved it there. Won the batting title in, nice. I think 40 or 50 games I was there. So even though I wasn't there the entire season, hit very, very well there. Went to Peoria and I saw a little bit of a bigger stadium, a little bit bigger of a field. The grass was cut a little bit nicer, just, and that's how it is in the minor leagues. Every step that you get up, you notice the small things, having a tunnel, just all those things. So I actually enjoyed my time. It was about 2.5 weeks I was in Peoria. But definitely loved the team chemistry. I remember it was a great team. Had a lot of fun nights, especially when we clinched for the playoffs. Of course, just hanging out with the guys as a young player. Very special times.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe I didn't realize you weren't there that long. So maybe you didn't play at some of the other places around the league.
Yeah, I heard stories. That's the best.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask, because I had to play in Clinton, Iowa.
Yeah,
which is the worst.
I never got that experience.
Oh, lucky you. Worst place in the whole league. But there's some other amazing places in that league, which is weird. Like Fort Wayne, Indiana has an unbelievable stadium now.
Tin Caps, yeah.
Yeah, and Dayton, the Dragons in Dayton, Ohio, arguably the best stadium in the league. So you didn't get to enjoy those, but you're lucky you didn't get to see the worst of it. In 2018, you really start to make your imprint where you're in Palm Beach. I believe you're playing the Florida State League. A little closer to home for you, which is probably cool. What overall Florida State League? I know it's hot and humid in the summer, but you were used to that. So what do you remember about that?
Just playing in my hometown, kind of. The memory that sticks out the most was going to play the Pirates in Bradenton and having my mom and dad in the stands. Most Florida State League games, not a ton of fans, so you're able to pick them out pretty easily.
Yeah.
But I hit 2 home runs in a game, which was an awesome accomplishment to be so close to home. Bradenton is a little bit more hitter friendly, but I just remember that. Of course, Roger Dean, where we play for the Palm Beach Cardinals, not so hitter friendly, so you have to work on those low line drives, which I was actually that's what I'm kind of known for. So I didn't necessarily struggle as much as most when they hit Palm Beach. And I guess I was pretty fortunate where I only spent a month and a half at the beginning of the season until I got promoted up to AA.
Right. So did you notice, I ask all the guys that come on the show that play minor league baseball, what levels did you feel like was the biggest jump? Was it high A to AA or AA to AAA? Where did you feel that?
I think high A to AA. I think my eyes started opening up, and honestly, it was more from the defensive side of things. You hit the ball weak. If you hit a ground ball in a certain range, the guys make the play. It's not as many balls fall. And that's probably a challenging thing is understanding these guys are really good at defense. So, that was the biggest jump. I didn't really see a huge jump as far as pitching, and honestly to AAA, I haven't seen that huge of a jump either. I know what I'm capable of. Sure. And, if I get a hittable pitch, early in the count and I miss it, that's on me. And that's unfortunately kind of what has happened the past year and a half or so, where my hitting numbers are a little bit down. But as far as the pitchers, like in AAA, there's some guys that just are funky. They have weird arm slots. They throw a lot of junk. You don't necessarily see that too much in AA, but either way, there's usually at least one pitch to hit per at bat. If you ever get down, if you foul off a pitch, you're going to see multiple pitches to hit if you're patient. So as long as you stay to your game plan, I really didn't think that there's too big of a jump in the other levels.
Yeah, I felt the same way as you, actually, going from high A to AA. From a pitcher's perspective, like, guys aren't swinging as much, at stuff in the dirt or chasing as much. It's more, they have a better approach. That's what I saw, at least from AA hitters. And that's where the prospects are. So
yeah, absolutely.
And most of the guys, I don't know if you agree with this, most of the guys in AA probably could play in the big leagues. Not everybody, but a lot of them.
A lot of them. I totally agree. And that's something that makes you feel good. It's not a different game up there. It's the same game we've been playing, the same rules, the same distance to first base. It's not you against the name. This is something that I learned pretty early on. It's not you versus the name. It's you versus the ball. It doesn't matter if, Syndergaard or Scherzer, it doesn't matter if they're throwing the ball. You still have to hit the ball. You're not hitting them, if that makes any sense. So, a lot of guys can throw 100 miles an hour. What's different than the AA prospect that you've never heard of that throws 100 compared to a Scherzer? It really minimal things. Of course, maybe spotting up locations and whatnot, but either way, it's the ball that you have to hit at the end of the day.
I think that's well said. I think in 2020, I saw there was no minor league season, but you got to play for Colombia for a few days in the Caribbean series. Probably a different, minor league lifestyle is very selfish. You're just trying to make it, it's less about winning. It's more about moving up. When you play for a country, it's all about winning. So did you feel that when you played for them?
Yeah, so I actually played about 30, 40 games in winter ball in Colombia, and then we won the championship there. It's a smaller league, but definitely winter ball in general. It's all about winning. It's all about producing. And if you don't do that, they'll move on to the next guy. So I was very fortunate that was actually the key moment where my manager actually grew up on the same street in Colombia as my dad did. So it was almost like family ties. It was really cool. We won the championship there, but the most important thing personally was to be able to get reps in at shortstop. That's something that I've always known I can play short ever since high school. I only played maybe a total of 10 games at short between my junior year in college and 2019. So very, very few opportunities at short. I remember making one error in AA. They started me at short for about 3 games, and I made that one error and then never again.
Wow.
So it was a quick kind of leash right there, but it was something that I work extremely hard, especially with Jose Oquendo, who's like our infield coach. He definitely has helped me out with just like understanding a little bit more about the game. And the way we work together is basically propelled me to be able to take reps at short in winter ball, to go errorless the entire winter ball season, which was awesome. And then, spring training hits. I'm mostly shoved around first base and third base. And I'm like, I know I can do it, guys. Like, I know I can do it. And ultimately, during the training site, before the season this past year, we had about a month when we were in St. Louis, just practicing. Basically, we were the B team. And we were, they were taking ground balls. And sometimes I would be shoved over at first base. And I definitely had to put my foot in the door to the manager's office and let him know that, I take it serious. I understand what I'm capable of. And I think that happened on multiple occasions where I had to do that. And then throughout the season, I played over 100 games at short. I was a little disappointed on how I finished. At All-Star break, I think I had 1 or 2 errors. And I was like, okay, I can actually do this. Like, this isn't a joke anymore. Like I can actually be a shortstop, like an everyday shortstop. And then I finished out the year with like maybe 12 errors. So Unfortunately, had a couple throwing errors here and there, and just
Okay.
some mental errors, I guess. But for the most part, like I was just really proud of myself for speaking up, getting that opportunity to play short, and that all was really propelled with playing winter ball in Colombia, and then going to the Caribbean Series, playing against Yachty. Just fun experiences for winter
Yeah.
ball.
And speaking of, you were mentioning, kind of where you are in the organization. Do you feel like you're knocking at the door and you're very close to potentially getting that call to the bigs, or where do you feel like you're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm close with last year playing a full season in AAA under my belt now. I definitely know what is expected, not only of myself, but of the team's needs. So if I'm able to basically insert myself into the team's need in any way, whether it's being a utility player or a super utility player or in any position basically other than pitcher, I'm okay with that, because I understand there's a need for people having days off, and that if that opens up an extra roster spot for another bullpen arm, I think that's valuable from the team standpoint. So
Yeah.
definitely, I understand that hitting is probably the thing that's going to propel me up to the big leagues. So I'm definitely going to be focusing on that this coming year, and yeah, going to be excited.
I'm with you, man. I want to talk real quick about the St. Louis Cardinals organization. They always seem to draft really well. It's just seems like on the outside, a very well-run organization. Have you felt that experience as well?
Yeah. I mean, we have, of course, the rich tradition. We're very historic, where we, respect the people that came before us, and I think that is, I'm happy to be part of an organization that values that, because, of course, not all teams and organizations value the players that came before them, and I think it's just a small little detail, but within the clubhouse at the spring training facility, we have a hallway, a pretty long hallway, and we just have some red jacket, basically Hall of Famers, Cardinal Hall of Famers, pictured up on the wall, and just to always walk by them and appreciate what they basically brought to the team. I think that's like a very special little nugget of information to the younger player on how to go about things the right way.
Sure. Now, have you worked with, I'm sure you have in spring training at different times, with some of the older guys or some of the big league guys? Anyone
Yeah.
in particular that's like helped you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think the guy that's helped me the most is Jose Oquendo. He's like that infield coach that he has an incredible work ethic. He's probably maybe 60 years old. I really don't know, but he
Yeah.
runs a couple of miles before spring training starts. He will work with you hours on specifics on how to take a ground ball. And he'll never really say I'm tired or I don't want to do it. Like he's there, and he understands that he's trying to help a player out, however it is. And I think that's one thing that's really cool is the connection that I've had with him recently is he understands how I work, and he understands that I'm able to almost teach some of the younger guys that are just newly drafted the same way that he's taught me. So
Sure.
that's been pretty special.
Nice, man. That's awesome. It's good to have a mentor like that that's been through it and helps the younger guys.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
Before we get to the fun stuff that you're doing, I want to do one last baseball question on just in general. There's some rule changes that are possibly coming in baseball. One of them looks like to be universal DH, and also the potential for robo umpires. Any thoughts on either of those two things?
So in AAA, we're actually going to be using electronic strike zones for probably half of the year, if I had to assume. We've used them somewhat in the past, just like more experimental in scrimmages and stuff like that, live at bats. We'll see. I think it's going to be interesting because I think there needs to be an input of the batter's height, because every strike zone is not the same.
Right.
So if they're able to do that consistently well, I think it'll be okay. One thing that I know for a fact we're going to see is guys with Kershaw type curveballs that clip the top of the zone, where a lot of people in the stadium would agree that that doesn't look like a strike. Same way on the bottom of the zone, there are going to be some curveballs that we see. Probably you'll see it on Twitter or wherever you see it, but there's going to be some curveballs that bounce before the catcher is able to actually catch it, and those will be called a strike, which It's gonna be interesting. That's what I have to say.
It's where it crosses the plate, as they say,
Yeah.
not where they catch it, which
Yeah.
is kind of the tricky part of that zone.
Yeah.
Universal DH, you a fan of it? You think it speeds up the game more? Don't need to see pitchers hit?
I don't know. I like the strategy behind having the pitcher hit, especially in the World Series when you have to ask basically the American League to do something that they haven't done.
Sure.
I think that brings a unique understanding of what the two different leagues almost like symbolize for maybe the novice baseball watcher. They don't understand why a pitcher's hitting on this field but not this other field. There has to be that like understanding of what's going on, and I think that's what baseball is. It's a intellectual game for smart people that understand it. So I think keeping that type of structure in the game of baseball would be great.
I agree with you. There is a lack of strategy probably moving forward, right? It is good offensively for the scores probably, and baseball needs more action. And it's another spot for guys to just be hitters and not have to play defense anymore. So it's, I guess, good for position players. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's talk about some cool stuff you're doing, especially on social media. Like I mentioned off the top, I follow you on TikTok, and I just followed all your other channels just because I was having you on. But you're doing a lot of great stuff, and you're bringing, shedding some light on the game, whether it's your defensive stuff or hitting or mental health or sports psychology about being a position player or a minor league baseball player. What's it been like for you on this journey of bringing people along with you during your career?
It's been amazing, honestly. I like to take me back to 2020 during quarantine when we didn't really have baseball. That's when I've said it multiple times. It's you either won quarantine or you lost quarantine. There's no gray area. You either improved yourself, you picked up a hobby, you learned something, or you kind of just sat on the couch, watched some Netflix, watched Love is Blind, whatever the show may be at the time. Don't get me wrong, I did a little bit of that, but I also, cut back tremendously on playing video games. I cut that out of my life and started, that was ultimately when I started creating a Shopify. I had maybe 10,000 TikTok followers, and my host brothers who I was living with during the time, we were creating some fun artwork, some pendulum paintings, and we were actually selling a few of them, which is really cool. So Shopify is the way to go. And I built up a community on TikTok. The foundation really came from giving swing breakdowns to kids. I put a video out that kind of went viral where a bunch of kids, they flooded in. I asked them basically to send a video of their baseball swing to my Instagram. That was the foundation. I gave about 6,000 swing breakdowns in the course of like 3 months. So a lot of, I guess, giving back early stages of the TikTok grind. And just kept grinding away, being consistent with it. I think that's one of the most important things with building anything, whether it's you're trying to be a professional baseball player or a social media influencer or whatever it is. It's being consistent, staying on a schedule. And I did that. I was constantly, when I was at the alternate site, doing TikTok lives. So I was interacting directly with people, doing kind of like a live Q&A. And sometimes there was 3 people in there.
Right.
But either way, I was vibing out with them. And one person one time asked, do you have any merch? And I was like, no, I don't. And that's when I really started to grind away, creating some of my own logos, selling merchandise, and also giving back to the people that do order. So one of the things that I thought was cool was every order came with a free signed baseball card. So of course, COVID year, you're not able to go to a baseball field. A lot of fans probably felt like they were taken away from baseball for that entire year.
Right.
In my mind, I was thinking, how do I solve this problem? How do I feel like these fans are still in touch? How do I make them feel that they're engaged with the game of baseball? And ultimately, I found that it was through TikTok, through my videos. They started to understand who I was. They felt like they were part of the journey to the big leagues, which is a very unique position that I felt that I was in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even just the cool ones where you're, on your way to the field, what's your day in the life? What's it like in the clubhouse? Now I'm going to go hit, I'm going to go take ground balls. Just bringing people in. I'm with you on that. Once you start doing that, that's what people, the minor leagues, as you know, it's kind of mysterious. You don't get to see people on TV play. You don't really see them until they get to the big leagues. So for you to do that, I'm sure it was great. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and that probably led you to your NFT project that I want to talk about called Diamond Dogs. Tell us about the inspiration behind that and ultimately maybe your long-term, what you want to do with it.
Yeah, so Diamond Dogs are another way of almost community building. So the NFT family, they all kind of live on Twitter, which I never really ever used. I had maybe 500-600 followers back in July of 2021, and just rarely used it. But I started figuring out there's a sense of community if you're able to build that around yourself. And the Diamond Dogs are basically a baseball inspired PFP collection. PFP stands for profile picture. A lot of people use it as like a Twitter profile picture. And I had this idea because the Bored Apes, it's one of the most popular projects out there. Odell Beckham Jr., Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, they all own one of these. And these are hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I was like, I want to recreate one, but add my little creativity to it. So I came up with the name Diamond Dogs, mostly from our team saying back in 2021 was "swing it, dog." Whenever we, took an aggressive hack, our entire dugout would basically say, I appreciate that effort. I like that intensity. Keep it up. That's kind of what "swing it, dog" meant. So back in like early August is when I started creating the Diamond Dogs, and I looked at a blank canvas and I just heard in the back of my head, "swing it, dog." So the only thing I really heard was dog. So I was like, okay, the dog is going to be the base of what it's going to be. It's not going to be an ape. It's not going to be a monkey. It's not going to be a cat, whatever. It's going to be a dog because "swing it, dog." And then I started personalizing it with different traits that resemble who baseball players are. Bubblegum, sunflower seeds. One of my favorites is having like some dip in the lip. Sunglasses, backwards hats, jewelry, all the things that baseball players do and wear. And I really found the inspiration from my teammates, the different cities that I played in, the different teams that I played on, all the way up to, my professional career, like that journey. So we've been doing pretty well. We've sold over 1,800 of these NFTs.
Sweet.
So we've kind of built a pretty close-knit community, very organic, of not only NFT collectors and enthusiasts, but also baseball fans. So the overall message was kind of mixing the NFT community with the baseball community and vice versa.
Now, is it going to be one of those where if you own one, you get something or it leads to something else?
Absolutely. So I think for a lot of people listening probably have no clue what an NFT is, and that's okay. The best way I like to explain it are two ways. You go up to the big leagues, you record your first hit, they put that shiny sticker on that ball. That certifies it as authentic. There's one of those. You can't duplicate that.
Right.
Since it's in the digital world and it's a digital asset, a lot of people just screenshot it and claim that they own it. But that's very similar to go to a little league field and claiming that they own Nolan Arenado's first base hit in the big leagues when it doesn't have that shiny sticker on there. The two items aren't necessarily the same. The other way I like to explain it are CDs. CDs, I think, are the better example. And this I actually found out how to explain it like a week ago. So I might be a little rusty, but CDs have a lot of different components, right? So you have the actual CD, or we could go records, like back in the day, records. Some of those records have really, really cool artwork on the top, right? Is that necessarily the only reason why someone might buy a record label? Not necessarily. Some people buy it to listen to their favorite song. So you're buying, a record that has artwork. That's not necessarily the only thing that you care about. It has the utility of actually listening to the songs, the music.
Sure.
And then also there's almost a sense of like collector or what it means in society. What does the culture tell you about this? Maybe we're talking CDs, like the old school Kanye West graduation album. What does that mean to your friends that I have this CD, it means something. So when we're talking about like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, one of the biggest, that's like, it means something to own one of those. I would love to be able to recreate that in any way possible. It's really, really tough, but from my standpoint, the Diamond Dogs, I have the artwork, which is baseball inspired dogs. That's not the only thing. It's not just baseball characters dressed up as dogs or whatever.
Sure.
There's that utility of listening to the music type thing, where the utility is if you have a certain trait, which 50% of them do, my signature in the bottom right, you can actually come watch me play in a game for free. Just will call tickets. So
if you have an NFT, they can
if
come
you
watch
have an
you?
NFT, you can come watch me play. So it's like, okay, well, if you want to come out to the, ballpark, instead of paying, $40-50 for a couple of tickets for you and your family, buying an NFT of mine and having a pretty high chance of 50% of owning one with that trait to actually be able to redeem that access, that's enticing for a lot of people. The other cool thing that is a little bit more sought after is what we call the Stadium Series, which is a stadium background of Camden Yards. That's going to be able to redeem a one-on-one stadium tour with myself prior to the game. So let's say it's a 7 o'clock game. We usually show up around 2 o'clock. I'll probably show up around noon and meet up with a Diamond Dog holder that actually has that trait. And then just get to know them. They get to know me. We get to, share some stories, experiences, what it's like to play professional baseball. And I think that's like one of the more unique things that is part of the project.
That's really cool. I don't think many people would offer that,
Yeah.
those two things. That's pretty sweet, man.
At the end of the day, it's just my time that I'm offering, which
Yeah.
I really don't mind if someone's willing to, buy a product of mine. It's not just an autograph on a baseball. There's
Sure.
so much more to it. And that's why I think what I'm doing is hopefully leading the way and pioneering other athletes to be able to do it in the right way.
Yeah, definitely. So does that mean we're going to have to be in Memphis to come do a ballpark tour with you?
So it's going to be anywhere, road trips included, as long as I'm able to actually get into the stadium, which
right.
I'm pretty sure I'm able to do that. I'm going to be able to offer that to, my holders. So I definitely am excited about that part. And especially with the season quickly approaching, I know a lot of people are excited to use that as well.
Yeah, man, definitely. And they're on OpenSea, right?
Yeah. So you can actually buy them secondary market. OpenSea is kind of like StockX, where you're not buying it directly from Nike. It's basically previously owned. But you can buy these previously owned NFTs on OpenSea. I think for a bargain right now, but it's been really cool because of course there's the flipping aspect of NFTs, just like people flip sneakers.
Yeah.
People have basically bought a Diamond Dog for about $100. Turns out it's a Stadium Series, which has some significance to some people. And that person that paid $100 was able to resell it for $1,600. So
wow.
Not only did they make money off of that transaction, but I took a small piece of that
Sure.
as a royalty, which is kind of one of the coolest things about NFTs is the royalty structure. So,
right.
Basically just allowing people to make some money. It's been a cool experience, but then also for the people that do really care about the Stadium Series, they're gonna take it upon themselves to purchase that to be able to hopefully redeem that VIP access or whatever you want to call it.
Okay, now how many are like available or unsold?
So we're about like 30% sold out. So
okay.
we still have a good maybe 5,000 or so that needs to be minted before it's completely sold out. And basically what a lot of people don't understand is the minting and then buying it off of OpenSea. Minting means creating a completely randomly generated one. Right. So you could pay $100 roughly, give or take, to mint a Diamond Dog. And it could, because of the computer code, give you that probability of maybe 2% of the time will give you that stadium background, which is sought after. And then you have the possibility to make a lot of money on the other end. If you buy off of OpenSea, you actually see what you're going to get beforehand.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Damn, that's awesome, man. Good for you to create all these cool things. And you're giving people access and, like you said, your time, which a lot of people aren't willing to do. So that's awesome. Okay. So where can everybody find you online, all your stuff, social media, everything?
Yeah. Just Evan Mendoza over on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, starting to do LinkedIn.
Hey, you should, man. It's professional.
Yeah. No, very, very. But yeah, I try to be as approachable as possible. So for the most part, if there's some type of genuine message sent my way, I like to be able to give that 2 seconds to double tap that message, just show the appreciation. That's one thing that like Adam Jones has done, Torrey Hunter. I mentioned them in a tweet, and they hit that like button, and it makes me feel special to a certain extent. So I like to be able to give that off to people that are huge baseball fans or big NFT collectors. So being approachable is one of the key things that I'm trying to take into everything that I'm doing off the field.
Man. That's great. He's blowing up on social media. He's Evan Mendoza. Thank you very much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck this year. Hopefully you get that call, out of Memphis to St. Louis so you can play at Busch Stadium. But I wish you the best of luck, man.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
For sure. My thanks to Evan Mendoza. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview, and check out his NFT project. I know if some of you older folks might not be in that world, and that's okay. But if you are in the NFT world, check out OpenSea. That's Open SEA, like the ocean, OpenSea.com or .io, and check out the Diamond DAUGS dogs, Diamond Dogs, and check out that NFT project. Otherwise, check him out on social media, Evan Mendoza. He's got lots of stuff going on, day in the life stuff. He's really good on creating content. So check him out. And my thanks to him, and best of luck to him on his season moving forward. And as always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram, on TikTok, on all the other platforms. Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Check out my YouTube channel. Same thing, Too Tall Sports Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, review. Anything you can do to help the show would be awesome. Audio side, it's Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, Google Play, pretty much everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm on there. Check those out. And please hit the 5 stars wherever you can. Like, share, review, comment, all that stuff. Please engage with the content, and it would greatly help the show. So wherever you can, boost Too Tall Sports Podcast and enjoy all the episodes. We've got over 90 now, so plenty of content for you to go through. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you next week with another great episode. Have a good one.